full of strength and plans for the future who didn't drink, use drugs, or have any connections to crime, drop dead. Before Olga arrived, Lena managed to feed Liza lunch and put her to bed, wash the dishes, make a pot of cabbage soup, and start the laundry. Today she planned to translate at least 5 pages of a massive article about the latest psychological research on serial killers. Cruelty and the Victim, by the trendy American psychologist David Crowell. Even though Liza was scarcely 2, Lena worked a lot and still ran the same literature and art department at Smart magazine as she had before her daughter's birth. The editor-in-chief had done his best to accommodate her and let her come in just 2 days a week. The lion's share of her work she took home to finish at her computer at night. On her 2 in-house days, she left her daughter with a lonely old neighbor, since neither Lena nor her husband, Sergei Klatov, had living parents. Liza was growing up without grandmothers or grandfathers, and for Vera Fyodorovna, a well-educated pensioner, spending the day with a calm, loving child was sheer joy. And the money Lena and Sergei paid her came in handy, given her miserable pension. "Don't you think of sending my little Liza to daycare," Vera Fyodorovna would say. "As long as I'm on my feet and of sound mind, I'll stay with her as much as you need." For Lena, having Vera Fyodorovna in the apartment across the way was a godsend. It wasn't only that Sergei's salary as a colonel in the Interior Ministry, he was deputy chief of the criminal division in the Domestic Counterintelligence Administration, barely supported them, but also that Lena herself couldn't live without work. She realized she'd be replaced the instant she eased up even a little. Lena's time was scheduled down to the minute, and she was beyond exhausted, sleeping 5 hours a day at most. Now she only had 1 of her 2 precious hours of Liza's afternoon nap left, that is, a good 2 pages of translation. But Lena didn't even bother to sit down to her computer. Ever since Olga's call, all she could think about was Mitya. She imagined what must be going on now with his parents and his 80-year-old grandmother, Zenita Lukinishna, who, despite her advanced age, still had her wits and a keen perception of life and death. What could have happened to Mitya? An accident? Did a car run over him? Did a brick fall on his head? But everybody knows a brick doesn't just fall on anybody's head. Lena had just turned on the electric kettle and poured coffee beans into the grinder when the doorbell rang. Olga was standing in the doorway wearing a black kerchief, her grandmother's probably. Tousled, bright gold locks poked out helter-skelter. It was obvious at first glance that she hadn't combed her hair or washed and had thrown on whatever was at hand. The news of Mitya's death had caught her unawares. So it was an accident? "He hanged himself," Olga said in a dulled voice as she took off her coat. "He hanged himself last night, in his apartment. He looped his belt around the gas pipe above the kitchen door." "Where was his wife?" Lena asked quickly. Sleeping peacefully in the next room. She didn't hear a thing." "Who found him?" Lena wanted to say his body, but faltered. It was hard to refer that way to Mitya, who had recently dropped by for a visit and sat right here on the kitchen sofa, sparking energy, health, and plans for the future. His wife? She woke up, went into the kitchen, and saw him. All of a sudden, Lena noticed that Olga had stopped calling her brother's wife by her name. Before, she'd had nothing but praise for her. "What happened next? At least have some coffee. Do you want me to ladle out some soup for you? I just made it." "No." Olga shook her head. "No, I can't eat anything. Or drink. Open the window a little and let's smoke while Liza's asleep. What really happened? No one saw." Olga shrugged nervously and took a deep drag. "We only know what she said, and she doesn't remember anything. She pulled Mitya out of the noose herself." "Wait a sec," Lena interrupted her. "But Mitya was 6 feet tall and solidly built. Katya's like Thumbelina, half his weight and 3 heads shorter." "Yes. She said it was very hard. But she couldn't leave him like that, and she was hoping he might still be alive. Don't worry, I'm thinking straight. I realize that anything's possible, but out of the blue like that, without even a note. And Mitya had always considered suicide a terrible sin. This is not enough to tell the police, of course, but Mitya was baptized. He was Orthodox. He went to confession and took communion. Rarely, but still. Now there can't even be a funeral because suicides don't get funerals. Any sin can be prayed away.